Hi guys, welcome to another contemporary Spanish politics class. Today we're going to be talking about whether the political culture in Spain is changing or not. And in order to assess political culture, we're going to talk about three dimensions. We're talking about democratic legitimacy, we're going to talk about political discontent, and we're going to talk about political disaffection. These three dimensions are the ones that allow us to assess whether the political culture is healthy or not. And before I go on, actually, let me remind you that the movie assignment is due on Saturday. So please make sure that you submit it before then on Blackboard. If you have any doubt, just email me. But now let's talk about democratic legitimacy, which is a very interesting dimension of political culture. And when we talk about democratic legitimacy, we are talking about the normative, the prescribed necessity of the existence of the regime as it is, its institutions, whether these institutions are democratic or not, whether the citizens recognize these institutions are the best institutions possible to rule them, to represent them. So we are talking about, by the end of the day, whether people consent that this is the best way to be governed. And how can we assess that? I mean, I'm sure you have, this is actually a class that is perfect for debating, because also this affects the US and we have the same normative questions here, whether we have the best system possible or not, can it be improved? Actually, the debate on direct democracy also fits here, whether it's, we have a legitimate regime or not, whether it can be improved or not. But let's talk about what the situation looks like in Spain. And how can we assess democratic legitimacy? I'm sure you can barely see anything on this screen now, but you have the PowerPoint slides at home, so make sure that you follow while you're watching this video. And one way to understand democratic legitimacy, whether people consent or not, is through the different referendums we've had in our history. There are different referendums. Obviously, it started with Ley de Política Reforma, Reforma Política, in 1977, remember, before we transitioned to a democracy. But the most important one for sure was the constitutional referendum, December 1978. And then we can see that 67% of the Spaniards turned out, and 88% of them supported the constitution. So this is what validated, this is what gave the initial legitimacy to our current democratic system. But obviously it differs from region to region. This is actually a map that we've already seen in class, because we discussed it. I'm talking about Catalonia and the Basque Country, how the support was massive in Andalusia. But by the end of the day, this was the initial consent. Then we have other estatutos de autonomía of different regions. But by the end of the day, these are validations of our system. These are providing with legitimacy to our system, because actually people turning out, people voting for it, is actually providing with legitimacy. How else? We can do this in referendums in the initial one, but actually this happens over time, or repeats over time, through elections. And we are talking about mainly general elections. And turnout in general elections in Spain is relatively high for a country that does not have compulsory voting. Actually, turnout in Spain in general elections is normally between 70 and 80%. In the previous elections, the one that took place in the spring a year ago, it was 76% of the Spaniards. Remember that elections in Spain take place on Sundays. We're going to talk about that next week, actually, in this class. Take place on Sundays, so we guarantee that the most people can go to the voting station and cast their vote. So by the end of the day, people turning out and voting in an election, what it's given is providing legitimacy to the system, is validating their system of representation and people choosing the representatives to be their voice in our institutions. But there's a risk here, and is whether there's a democratic deficit, whether these representatives are too far away from voters. And actually this is a problem that the European Union has been tackling for a long time, because while here participation is very high, in the European Union elections we're talking about turnouts in some countries that are under 50%. And this is very low, and this is affecting clearly the legitimacy of the democracy, and whether our system is legitimate or not to make decisions on our behalf. If less than half of the population is voting, is it sensible that they are choosing on behalf of everyone? Obviously, yes, we do need a system, but by the end of the day, this affects the quality of our democracy, our political culture. We're going to have a small break now. After the break, I'm going to be talking about political discontent and political disaffection. They might sound similar, but they are two very different terms, and they have different implications to our society. So see you in a minute after the break.